The tension between United States, Israel, and Iraq has never been just about borders or politics. It has always been a story of power, fear, history, and the fragile balance of the modern world. It began, as many conflicts do, not with a single event, but with layers of mistrust built over decades. The United States had long positioned itself as a dominant force in the Middle East, driven by strategic interests, alliances, and the desire to maintain stability, at least from its own perspective. Israel, a close ally, stood as both a symbol of resilience and a source of controversy in the region. Iraq, on the other hand, carried the weight of its past: wars, occupation, and internal struggle, while trying to redefine its future. In the early hours of a quiet morning, intelligence reports began circulating in Washington. Analysts warned of increasing militia activity in Iraq, groups believed to be aligned with regional powers hostile to both the United States and Israel. These militias were not new, but their movements had grown more coordinated, more deliberate. Inside the Pentagon, screens flickered with satellite images. Convoys moved through desert roads. Communication signals spiked. Something was shifting. For the United States, Iraq was not just another country. It was a place where history still lingered heavily. The memory of past wars, the cost of intervention, and the fragile Iraqi government all played into every decision. Any action taken there could ignite consequences far beyond its borders. Meanwhile, in Israel, security officials were watching closely. The possibility of advanced weapons being transferred through Iraq to hostile groups was a constant concern. Israel had always maintained a policy of acting preemptively when it perceived existential threats. Waiting was not a luxury it believed it could afford. In Baghdad, the atmosphere was different. The Iraqi government found itself caught in the middle, balancing its sovereignty with the influence of powerful militias, its relationship with the United States, and the pressure from neighboring countries. Every move was delicate, every statement carefully measured. As days passed, tensions escalated. A drone strike, its origin unclear, hit a convoy near the Iraqi border. Reports were conflicting. Some claimed it was a defensive action by the United States, targeting a militia leader. Others whispered that Israel had carried it out quietly, as part of its broader strategy to disrupt threats before they could materialize. The reaction was immediate. Militia groups in Iraq condemned the strike, calling it a violation of sovereignty. Protests erupted in parts of Baghdad. Flags were burned, speeches were made, loud, defiant, and filled with anger. The Iraqi government issued a statement, carefully worded, condemning the attack while urging restraint. But behind closed doors, officials worried. They knew that if the situation spiraled, Iraq would once again become the battlefield for larger powers. In Washington, the debate intensified. Some argued for a firm response. Strength, they believed, would deter further aggression. Others warned of escalation, reminding leaders of the lessons learned from years of conflict in the region. The question was not just what to do, but what the consequences would be. Israel, meanwhile, increased its readiness. Air defenses were activated. Intelligence operations expanded. The sense of urgency was palpable. For Israel, the line between caution and vulnerability was razor thin. Then came the turning point. A rocket attack targeted a base housing U.S. personnel in Iraq. It was not the first such attack, but this time it caused casualties. The news spread quickly. Images flooded social media. The pressure on the United States government became immense. This was no longer a distant tension. It was personal. The United States responded with precision strikes against militia positions. The message was clear. Attacks on its forces would not go unanswered. But in the Middle East, actions rarely exist in isolation. The strikes triggered a chain reaction. Militia groups escalated their rhetoric, vowing retaliation. Protests intensified. Political factions within Iraq became more divided, some calling for the expulsion of U.S. forces, others warning that such a move could destabilize the country further. Israel, watching the escalation, grew increasingly concerned. Intelligence suggested that chaos in Iraq could create opportunities for hostile actors to strengthen their positions. The risk was no longer hypothetical. It was evolving in real time. Behind the scenes, diplomacy struggled to keep pace with events. Envoys moved between capitals. Messages were sent through intermediaries. Calls for de-escalation echoed in international forums. But trust was scarce, and every side feared appearing weak. In Baghdad, ordinary people felt the tension in their daily lives. Markets grew quieter. Conversations became cautious. The memory of past conflicts lingered in every uncertainty. Many Iraqis had lived through war before. They knew how quickly stability could disappear. For the United States, the challenge was balancing strength with restraint. Too little action could invite further attacks. Too much could ignite a broader conflict. The line between deterrence and escalation was dangerously thin. For Israel, the stakes were existential. Surrounded by threats, it viewed every development through the lens of survival. Its decisions were shaped by a history where hesitation had often come at a high cost. For Iraq, the situation was perhaps the most complex. It was a nation striving to stand on its own, yet constantly pulled by external forces. Its leaders faced an impossible task, maintaining sovereignty while navigating pressures from all sides. As the weeks unfolded, the situation reached a fragile equilibrium. There were no dramatic resolutions, no clear victories. Instead, there was a quiet understanding, an unspoken recognition of the risks involved in pushing further. Back-channel communications increased. Signals were sent, not publicly, but clearly enough for those involved to understand. Lines were drawn, not in maps, but in intentions. The United States adjusted its posture, focusing on protecting its forces while avoiding unnecessary escalation. Israel continued its vigilance, acting carefully but decisively when it believed threats crossed its red lines. Iraq worked tirelessly to prevent its territory from becoming the stage for a larger conflict. The tension did not disappear. It rarely does. But it shifted from open confrontation to cautious observation, from immediate crisis to underlying uncertainty. In the end, the story of tension between the United States, Israel, and Iraq is not one with a clear beginning or a definitive end. It is an ongoing narrative, shaped by history, driven by interests, and influenced by the unpredictable nature of human decisions. It is a story of power and vulnerability, of strategy and survival, of actions and consequences. And like many such stories, it remains unfinished, waiting for the next chapter